boxers, gunboats, and a bill. The Boxer Rebellion and the Boxer Protocol, 1900 to 1901. This story doesn't start with an army. It starts with fear. By the late 1800s, northern China was under strain. Foreign powers had carved out privileges through treaties. Missionaries were spreading. Railroads and telegraph lines were cutting through old landscapes. Local economies were changing. Drought, hardship, and anger were rising. Out of that pressure came a movement with a name that sounded righteous and a reputation that turned deadly. They called themselves the Society of Righteous and Harmonious Fists. Foreigners called them boxers because of their martial arts training. Their target was simple: foreign influence, and Chinese Christians, who were often seen, fairly or not, as tied to that influence. By 1899, violence was spreading. By 1900, it was surging. And then the crisis moved to the capital. In June 1900, foreign diplomats and their families, along with guards and Chinese Christians seeking refuge, crowded into Beijing's Legation quarter. What followed became one of the most famous sieges of the modern era. On June 20th, 1900, the siege began. For 55 days, the Legation quarter was surrounded by boxers and by Qing troops aligned with the anti-foreign push. Outside the walls, the city simmered. Inside, defenders improvised with sandbags, barricades, and whatever food they could ration. It wasn't a grand battle. It was endurance, heat, hunger, and constant uncertainty. The Qing court was split. Some officials wanted to crush the boxers. Others saw them as a weapon against foreigners. Empress Dowager Cixi chose the gamble. On June 21st, 1900, the Qing court declared war on the foreign powers. For the outside world, that turned a violent uprising into an international war. A first attempt to break the siege, the Seymour expedition, pushed up from Tianjin toward Beijing, then failed and retreated. It was a warning. The road to the capital would not be easy. But the next move was bigger. An international coalition formed, what history remembers as the Eight-Nation Alliance, including the United States. For weeks, Allied forces fought their way inland. Tianjin fell to the Allies in July. Then the relief column advanced again. On August 14, 1900, Allied troops entered Beijing and lifted the siege. The immediate crisis was over, but the reckoning was just beginning. The Qing court fled west to Xi'an. China had not been carved up into pieces of territory in this settlement, but it would be carved up in another way. By law, by money, by humiliation written into clauses. Negotiations dragged on, and the foreign powers demanded guarantees. They wanted punishment. They wanted security. They wanted compensation. They wanted a system that ensured this would not happen again. China sent senior negotiators, including Prince Qing and Li Hongzhang, to deal with the victorious coalition. The result was signed on September 7, 1901, in Beijing. It was called the Final Protocol for the Settlement of the Disturbances of 1900. Most people remember it as the Boxer Protocol, and it hit like a hammer. China was ordered to pay an indemnity of 450 million high quan taels of fine silver. It wasn't a one-time payment. It was a long-term debt, paid over 39 years with interest, so large it became a permanent shadow on Qing finances. The protocol also reshaped sovereignty on the ground. The Legation quarter was declared a special zone reserved for the foreign powers under their exclusive control. China accepted the right of each power to keep permanent guards there. In other words, foreign troops could remain in the heart of the capital, not as visitors, but as sentries. Key fortifications were to be dismantled, including the Taku forts near Tianjin, gates that once guarded the approach from the sea. China agreed to restrict arms imports for a period set by the powers. Anti-foreign societies were to be banned under severe penalties. And in regions where foreigners had been massacred or brutally attacked, civil service examinations were suspended for years, turning education into a tool of punishment and control. Officials linked to the violence were punished. Some were executed, some exiled, some forced to take their own lives. The message was clear. The court would discipline itself under foreign demand. Even the machinery of diplomacy changed. The old Zhongli Yamen, the office that handled foreign affairs, was replaced by a foreign office with higher status. It was an admission carved into bureaucracy. The old way of managing the outside world was gone. So what does defeat look like here? It isn't only soldiers losing ground. It's the capital occupied. It's the court fleeing. It's a treaty that plants foreign guards inside Beijing. It's a financial burden that outlives the war itself. It's a forced rewrite of policy, policing, and prestige. And for many Chinese thinkers who came after, the Boxer Protocol became a symbol, proof that China's weakness could be priced, negotiated, and enforced. In the United States, the story became part of a larger rise onto the world stage. American forces helped defend the legations, joined the relief, and gained a seat at the table. For China, it became a warning bell. Modern power wasn't just guns. It was treaties, debt, and the ability to define order for someone else. The Boxer crisis ended in 1901, but the aftershock did not. Because once a country learns that foreign soldiers can stand permanently inside its capital and call it security, that lesson stays. That's why this moment matters, not as a simple tale of good and evil, but as a turning point where violence, fear, and foreign power combined. And the cost was written into China's future, one clause at a time.